All right, folks, and welcome to the censored versus sinkhole video. Where we talk about things like entropy and ignorance and the distinction between your beep and a hole in the ground. I don't know why we're talking about a pack animal here, not a vulgarity including curse word. Do you know the difference between your eep and a hole in the ground? Man, that buzzer is busted. I need a new sampler. All right. Let's talk about Zooniverse.org's Galaxy Zoo project. Now, I've made 162 classifications. Zooniverse.org is the largest citizen science project in the world. And while I've done a few different projects there, I'm mainly involved in the Galaxy Zoo. Zooniverse.org. Anyway, look up the Galaxy Zoo project, as we need humans to classify galaxies, to figure out which ones to study in greater depth. Now, this is a legit it's not a cinnamon project, it's a citizen science project. We have a very interesting galaxy here. I'm going to actually save that image for posterity, or possibly other science in the future. Now, we're looking at very deep field objects here, and we need to know which ones to study, such as edge on disks, which is part of the reason why we have a classification specifically for the edge on disks. So let's just go through the process of classifying a galaxy, as it doesn't require a lot of training. The site will teach you how to do this if you don't already know how. This is not a plain, smooth, elliptical, boring galaxy. Just go through, and if you don't know exactly what it's asking you to do, just click "Need some help with this task," and it will explain it for you. It's not an edge on disk. I'm going to say there's a weak bar, because if you start contrasting these images out, you will see bars where you may not have been able to see them before. There is a sign of a spiral arm pattern in this particularly interesting galaxy. It's kind of a composite galaxy, folks. It's part elliptical in the middle, and it's part spiral on the outside. It's almost like a Seifert 2. That's spelled S-E-Y-F-E-R-T, Seifert 2 galaxy. It's similar to that, as it has a very bright central core and still has a spiral arm pattern, so it looks like a Seifert 2 style galaxy. Let's say those are very tightly wound spiral arms, and I'm going to say that I see 3. There is certainly a bulge, and it looks very similar to that, so we're going to say small bulge. Is it merging or disturbed? I don't see any kind of a disturbance. It looks like it's only interacting with itself, at least from the local intragalactic perspective, as we can't really, this isn't zoomed out. There could be a massive galaxy interacting with this, who knows. And do we see rare features? Yes, practically all of them. We see a ring. We see possible lens or arc. No surprise there, as it's probably quite massive. Again, these are very deep field objects. There is irregularity, and that could just be from perspective, as we're kind of looking at a fairly obtuse angle to the core and a fairly acute angle to the galactic plane. Certainly dust lanes, no overlap that I can see. So that's an interesting one. Zoom that all the way in. Interesting galaxy there. It looks like a Seifert 2 that we're not looking directly down the barrel of, to me. And when you're finally done classifying the galaxy, just click Done and move on to the next one if you like. That is a very interesting warped galaxy. We will classify that. And we have classified this galaxy too. We didn't want to take up too much time on the video. You can put comments up and stuff to speak with other folks. We're saying this one needs further study indeed. Look at the warped nature of this edge on disk. Super interesting. There's a bulge here, which is offset. Very interesting galaxy. And this is real science, folks. If you want to, you might even get published in a paper over this kind of stuff. Zooniverse.org, the largest citizen science project in the world. We call that bandwagon advertising. And this one we're not going to do. It's a plain elliptical galaxy, give or take, with a bulge. So check out Zooniverse.org, Galaxy Zoo Project. Let's talk about defining some terms before we get on to shocking levels of human stupidity. Plage. Plage, yes. Now, we typically use the word plage to describe a bright and intensely hot area in the sun's chromosphere, usually associated with the sunspot, where there are things like organized magnetic fields. Not to be confused with a sunspot, a plage has no umbra. But it's good to understand all of these things. We'll explain why in a moment. Plage. It's not a plague. It's also a sandy beach at a seaside resort, by the way. And that's because of the way it appears when you view it through a thing like a telescope with a solar filter. It looks like a sandy beach. It just has no dark umbra associated with it. Let's talk about cycle 25 activity, solar cycle 25. Now, the largest sunspot in cycle 25 was located there. And that happened nearly a year ago, folks. That was on November 8th, 2018. The largest cycle 25 sunspot. Now, are we in cycle 25 or 24? It's in the overlap period right now, folks, where the cycles overlap each other, where you have the one more activity from the one cycle coming down and more activity from the other cycle going up, and there's this overlap period at solar minimum where you really have two cycles happening at the same time, and that's why we study the polarity of the activity. So even a plage can give you some indication, and we've got links to this cycle 25 spots from solon.info. It's covering all the different activity up to just a few days ago here on 9/13. So there was a beta class sunspot then, and of course we covered it. And let's delve deep into human exploitation. Yes, Greta Thunberg, a poor, sad child with autism from Sweden, who's being exploited to propagate this ridiculous carbon dioxide equals warmer planet agenda. Now, we're not suggesting that pollution's not a real thing. We're not suggesting that humans can't affect the climate in various different ways. Just that carbon dioxide has nothing to do with any of that stuff. And generally, the Earth's climate is mitigated by solar cycles. Now, here's the deal. The Earth's thermal capacity does not lie in the atmosphere. That's the first thing to understand. You can measure the atmosphere all day, all night, for centuries, and it's not going to tell you the Earth's temperature. Have you ever noticed how long it takes water to heat up and cool down? Well, less than 1% of Earth's thermal capacity lies in the atmosphere. Now think about the implications of that. Is the Earth covered by approximately 80% water? How deep is that water in the Indian Ocean, in the Pacific Ocean, in the Atlantic Ocean, in the Arctic Ocean? In other words, if you want to know the climate of Michigan, you better know the temperature of Lake Superior. That's how important on a macroscopic and microscopic scale water is to thermal capacity. If you want to know about greenhouse gases, the world's primary greenhouse gas is water. And there's a bit more of that than there is carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Let's move on here, but we've got links to this article from USA Today about Greta meeting with the Obama Foundation. Great, This is wonderful. We would like possibly to have tax-exempt organizations funding this poor exploited child's sailing trip, where she thinks she's saving the world by sailing across the U.S. and having no carbon footprint by flying in a plane, while reporters from all around the world fly all around the world to cover this ridiculous story about carbon dioxide being the control lever or having anything to do with planet Earth's temperature and climate and weather. Because carbon dioxide doesn't have the capacity to do that, folks. It's 0.04% of the atmosphere. Let's play a clip from Greta as she tries to scare you into looking into her dead-eye mackerel stare and believing anything that she says as if she understands the first thing about atmospheric physics, much less climate, much less cosmology, etc. Let's play a clip.
Pay for the luxuries of the few. The year 2078, I will celebrate my 75th birthday. If I have children, maybe they will spend that day with me. Maybe they will ask me about you.
She'll be 75. When's she going to make a comment about how hot the planet's going to be? Let's go back to Greta.
Maybe they will ask why you didn't do anything while there still was time to act.
Maybe her grandchildren, when she's 75, will ask her why she didn't do anything while there was still time to act. Please continue, Greta.
You say you love your children above all else, and yet you are stealing their future in front of their very eyes.
You really think she wrote this speech? Please leave a comment.
Until you start focusing on what needs to be done, rather than what is politically possible, there is no hope.
There's no hope. There's no hope, folks. You heard it here. Now, why isn't Greta visiting China? That's the main question we have to ask. There's the gigatons of carbon dioxide emitted. And again, not suggesting carbon dioxide acts as a greenhouse gas on this planet, as it doesn't line up with temperature, nor has it ever. And don't make the argument that Venus proves that carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas in terms of Earth's warming. Anyway, let's talk about more horrible entropy and stupidity. Check it out from the local news station. Prosecutors say a fellow has dropped some explosives from a drone. Great plan. Now, he was already unable to legally own guns, I think, but the police found a bunch of those. There's been a bunch of explosions in Northampton. There's been a bunch of explosions around Northampton County, and it seems that prosecutors now say that Jason Muzzicato was dropping explosives from a drone on his ex-girlfriend's property. Now, you want to hear about entropy? Wow. Now, this isn't a human exploitation story like the last one, where a child who knows nothing about physics, much less the climate, much less cosmology, is telling us that the planet's warming. This is a guy flying FAA illegal. By the way, you need a permit. You need a registration to fly an object heavier than 1 pound in the U.S. So, like, if you fly around using you've got some bottle rockets on a half-pound drone, and it's legal to launch bottle rockets, and you're not launching them at your neighbor's house and things like that, you can have a less than 1 pound drone with the payload and have, aerial fireworks and things like that. What you can't do is drop explosives on your neighbor's yards. And anyway, Muzzicato's exploring a plea agreement. He sounds like a genius, and pardon for my
sarcasm.
Here's another article about Greta Thunberg. She's trying to scare the crap out of you, convince you that the planet's warming. while record snow falls in the northern hemisphere for the 3rd year in a row. That's right, early winters and late springs are destroying crops, while the mainstream media is suggesting that this person understands climate. Really? I've been studying this since 1987. Let's get out of the entropy realm, as it's depressing. Here's what you need to know to rise to the top according to science. And by the way, take that with a grain of salt. Whenever an article vaguely says according to science, or when an autistic child from Sweden tells you to listen to science, if you don't understand the science, you shouldn't listen to anything until you understand the science, especially if it's non-science. See what I did there? Anyway, here's what you need to rise to the top. Focus training, passion, grit, positive mindset, and mentors. Who knew? Anyway, there's links to the article. What don't you need for success? Google is what you don't need for success, since it's a scam and not a verb. Dear Google, we appreciate your paying us nothing for these videos, as we seek different sources of income and wish to have no financial contract with your horrific zombie organization, where algorithms and nonsense control your websites and servers, instead of incompetent people who write the code for them. Have a nice day, Google. Enjoy those lawsuits, and let us know how your attorneys' gardens are doing this year. Speaking of social media nonsense, do you follow us on Facebook? I mean, Facebook is great if you want to be shadow banned. I mean, it's top notch. They got rid of Alex Jones. They haven't banned us yet. I don't know, maybe because they dislike Google as much as we do. Anyway, we're on there, facebook.com/smAsho. And thanks for viewing the Censored versus Sinkhole section, where we talk about whatever we want. Even the ignorance of people like Bernie Sanders, if we feel like it, on a particular day. We're also on Gab. I don't know if they censor you or not. I don't really care. We're on there, gab.com/smAsho, and on Minds, where we've recently got to 500,000 views. The views are just rolling in, folks. Minds is going to blow up this year. And yes, there are crypto aspects. Check it out, minds.com/smAsho. Good times. The open source social media that won't censor you. Isn't that amazing? Remember MySpace? It's probably still better than Facebook, even though Facebook now owns it or has now divested it or something. I don't know or care. As I was getting in trouble on social media before the word social media existed. So please press like, subscribe, leave a comment on YouTube, as it is our main source host right now. youtube.com/smAsho. We even put up videos that are titled Death to Google, and we don't mind or appeal their demonetization. We just laugh and laugh at Google's pathetic zombie nature. It's going to be interesting to see them walk into a deep, deep pit that they cannot escape from. Enjoy that, Google. Enjoy it. Transcribe that, Google. Anyway, become a patron if you'd like to actually support the channel, as these videos are monetized for the sake of Google and YouTube, not for the sake of our channel. Google, Google, Google. Transcribe, Google. Transcribe, Google. Google, transcribe. By the way, all your videos are transcribed if you're uploading videos onto YouTube. Whether they're Googleable or not, we're ungoogleable. Transcribe that. We consider that a badge of honor. How about neutrinos? Are you familiar about neutrinos? Well, there's issues about neutrinos and their mass. We've linked to the article from Universe Today about how folks now think they know the mass of a neutrino, or at least the upper limit. And let's move on to more stuff, as there's still plenty of stuff to cover, such as research revealing vital clues about recycling. Now, the standard cosmological model states that stars that are in the slightly more massive than the sun range, will eventually produce a shell, which produces a crispy layer of different atomic nuclei in there, suggesting that transmutation of elements happens deep inside a star. While at the same time, there's a whole lot of, let's just say, more current sapphire experiments suggesting that these things all happen on the surface of the stars. So if you've been reading Velikovsky and you appreciate what we've stated here, please leave a comment. Anyway, links to this article as well. And now we're going to put up a little video here with a couple clips from a great visualization of how big volcanoes can be. All the way from, well, let's just play a clip.
Speaking of Vikings, there's a really awesome game called Viking War of Clan.
Okay, let's advance that. Great visuals here. Let's go midway through the video and play a clip as, hey, they got an ad on our video, one for which we will not be paid, so become a patron. Do not ban us, YouTube. We talk about volcanoes every day on this channel. Don't try to demonetize. This counts. Anyway, we've got links to the video below. We're going to move this forward to space level volcanoes. And I'm going to migrate. No, not to Somalia. And I'm not sure if we show a space level eruption here or not, but watch the video as it's a super interesting visual analysis of eruptions. And speaking of eruptions, here is 304 angstroms. There is a filament eruption going on there. It appears to have collapsed back onto the chromosphere. You can see it in the northeast. I'll zoom in. As this is the only bonus feature you get, this video is practically over. Please leave a comment. Please become our next patron. Press like and subscribe. Press the notification bell. You'll see when the premieres come out. And perhaps we'll even watch them together, right? So anyway, when you understand the difference between entropy and real science, and you're trying to differentiate between nonsense and science, don't drink it if you drink. Do the same anyway. Understand the distinction. And since it'll never be now again, may the entropy be in the garbage and the real science be at your fingertips.